Kashmiriat have been striving to provide truthful coverage of news and facts. We are a power in your hands. Thank you for all the wonderful support you have been providing us throughout our journey. We promise you that we will continue its unbudged and relentless fight to report actual facts.
कभी शाहीन बाग की शाम बनके, कभी जामिया की दास्तान बनके, कभी अलीगढ़ की आवाम बनके, कभी फैज की नज़मों का उन्वान बनके, लेने तुम्हारे जुल्मों सितम का हर एक हिसाब, आएगा इनकलाब, पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब।
तो शायद मैं अपनी बातों को बोलकर ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह नहीं बोल सकता, शायद मैं नज़मों से अपनी बात को ज़्यादा बेहतर तरह से बोल सकता हूँ। तो यह कि वतन की तुंद हवाओं पे शोर गुल दिल का, चला उदास रुतों के तवाफ करने को, जगह जगह पे तमन्नाओं का लहू देखा, जगह पे जगह इश्क बेकरार मिला, हर एक जर्रा किसी गम में सोगवार मिला। जाने किस खूब रो के मातम में अपने सीने को पीटती नदियां, पर्वतों के जिगर को चाक किए किसी फरहाद का पयाम लिए, बह रही थी किसी के आंगन से, और किनारे पे कोई दीवाना, अदाओ नाज बराबर थे शायरों वाले, ये खौफनाक हवाओं में टस से मस न हुआ, नमाज शोक सरेदार कर रहा था अदा, करबला का मुरीद था, दार कर रहा था अदा, करबला का मुरीद था शायद।
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I welcome you all to the second episode of Straightforward at the Kashmiriat. The Kashmiriat is one of the oldest news organizations in Kashmir. Formally, it started in 1988 and we revived our operations in 2017. Since then, we are one of the fastest growing news organization in Kashmir. At Kashmiriat, it's a common man whose unheard plies are given a space. Kashmiriat has always strived and tried to keep people at the center of its coverage.
And on a personal note, it's always encouraging as young journalists to witness huge response. Thank you so much for the previous episode. I thank you all. I'm Aniqa, a journalist based in Kashmir. I again welcome you all to the second episode of Straightforward. Today, the topic of our discussion will be art and conflict. In the recent times, we have seen a rise of resistance through art, music, and culture. Various artists, poets, and cultural activists have been working very hard to preserve the genre, where some of them have been jailed to voice out their resistance through their art, like Pinjra Tod group. Some poets like Siraj Bisrali, Deepak Mishra, Varavara Rao, who has recently been tested positive for COVID-19 in jail. Today, we will discuss how, in these testing times, art is surviving. Today, we will also discuss how art has become an inseparable part and evolved as a powerful tool of resistance. The first panelist of today is Mrs. Asmat Ashai. She teaches Kashmiri language in the United States. Settled in US since 1970, Mrs. Ashai is also associated with the Fankar International Organization, US-based non-profit organization for 20 years. She has been actively promoting Kashmiri culture and artists in US. I heartily welcome you, ma'am, in our today's episode.
Thank you, thank you.
So I would like to ask you the first question, ma'am.
Sure.
Okay. People know you through your active cultural activism. So do you want your identity as the world identifies you, or you want to add something else to it?
Well, I don't know how the world sees me because I don't see myself as being so famous or anything. I am at heart a Kashmiri. I was born in Kashmir. And I have lived in the States twice the amount of time that I have spent in Kashmir. But, I feel like I am a part of both Kashmir and America because America has taught me a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have known. Even the activism that I feel I am a part of is a part of who I am right now. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it surely does. The second panelist for today is Bihan. She is Jamia Millia alumni and presently lives in Delhi. She is a poet, an activist, and a budding teacher. She has been very vocal about the stigmas in our society. Her poetry shows her dissent and anger towards the atrocity and a dream of revolution that everyone is hopeful for. Nabia, I welcome you today. I welcome you to today's episode. One of her poems got worldwide attention during anti-CA protests, which we will surely listen to. So Nabia, being an influential poet and an activist, a lot of people know you across India and overseas. But is this how you actually want to be known, or there is something overshadowing the identity you wanted to make?
Basically, what I want to say is that there's this space which Muslims have created in India, and they are paying a cost for that space. They are being jailed, they are being harassed, they are being attacked by the right-wing community, online and offline. So there's this space which Muslims have created, and I am the representative of of that space. And as you said that if you want to be known for your work or not, so obviously if it comes in the name of being known for my work, for representing my space, so yeah, I will take that. I will take. Why I would not let any Savarna upper caste savior come and save me and save my identity. I would do that on my own.
Okay, that's great. The third and final panelist of our today's show will be Zeshan Jairpoon, who is a poet. Poetry is a gift he inherited from his great-grandfather, a famous Kashmiri Urdu poet, Sayyid Akbar Jaipuri. His poetry reflects his resistance, anger, desperation, and a hope. For him, his pen is the power that can bring change dynamically. I welcome you, Zeshan, in our today's episode.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Zeshan, you have been very vocal through your poetry and through your various couplets on conflict. So how do you see yourself from the perspective of people? Is this the identity you initially wanted to make, or there is something you want people to know?
So, असल में मेरा क्या है, एक्सीडेंटल है. I mean, मैंने consciously ये रास्ता नहीं चुना. I mean, यही कुछ मेरे सामने आया, so मैं यही पाथ को फॉलो करता गया. I mean, मुझे बिल्कुल भी आइडिया नहीं था in 2010 to 2020, तब से बहुत इवॉल्व हुआ. लेकिन जब ये शुरू हुआ तब मुझे आइडिया भी नहीं था कि एक्टिविज्म क्या चीज़ है. मैं बस पोएम लिखता था. I mean, मुझे नहीं पता था कि इससे क्या होना है, क्या हो सकता है. लेकिन विद टाइम मतलब चीज़ें आती गईं. जैसे इकबाल कहते हैं कि कुदरत खुद ब खुद करती है लाले की हिनाबंदी. सो बिल्कुल वैसा ही मेरे साथ भी हुआ. चीज़ें जुड़ती गई और बनता गया.
जी, शुक्रिया. So Nabia, my second question will be to you. A lot of experts have been saying that government does not provide a space for parallel voices, contradicting the essence of democracy, at least in theory. So do you as an activist and poet subscribe to this opinion? What is that you feel is the utmost requirement to heal this affliction?
Obviously, matlab, it's not something we don't know, and it's like government is being fascist. It doesn't even wear any veil now. It is naked fascism. So yeah, we have an example of Vara Rao. He was being jailed for his poems, obviously on fake charges. So yeah, right now I don't expect anything much from this government, because we know our voices are being suppressed like that. We don't even know who is going to jail next, who is going to jail next for writing poetry. Even there was this charge sheet where they have mentioned a charge sheet of the Delhi pogrom, where they have mentioned specifically that there is certain section of poets who are writing poetry to mobilize masses, to provoke people against Hindus. So that is the case, and that charge sheet has been accepted by the government. So yeah, I cannot say much about what is the meaning of this for me, but right now I feel that the government just want to muzzle our voices, and we have to uphold the idea of freedom, the idea of that we believe in. So yeah, we are just trying our bit.
Thank you. Mrs. Ashai, my next question would be for you. Mrs. Ashai brought a change in music and folk sector of Kashmir by reviving the culture on international platform that people have completely forgotten. How challenging was your journey to go from Kashmir to US, to various other states too, finding people of same interest. Also, the way you introduce Kashmiri songs in Coke Studio, like Hagalo and The Aftermath.
Well, the journey starts from 1974, when there were no diplomatic relations between India and Pakistan. The war had broken out. It was a Bangladesh war. And the person I was getting married to was my cousin who lived in Pakistan, who was never allowed to come to Kashmir. And the challenge was, where do we get married? And the safest place at that time was Kabul. So we were thinking of getting married in Kabul. To make the long story short, somehow, because of some connections, Mrs. Gandhi was approached, and they gave my husband's family a visa to come to Kashmir in spite of no diplomatic relations. So that's how we got married. And under these circumstances, with no diplomatic relations between the two countries. And it is sad that we now have children and grandchildren, and we still see the same thing. It's like two children fighting, and they just need to grow up. This is how I see it. But when I came here, my husband was 3 years old when he left Kashmir. He was born in, for Shibli, this will be good, he was born in Rajpura. So he is more of the South Kashmir guy than I am. And, when you have children, you want to give them sound footing about who they are, because you are in an alien country where everything is different from how you grew up. So I made an effort to make them feel proud of themselves. Not that they're any better as Kashmiris, but proud of themselves for whatever they are, for good or bad. Everything about us is not great, but they needed to know where they are. So we used to visit Kashmir all the time. But then in the 1990s, when things went sour in Kashmir, no one from the diaspora could visit Kashmir. So a few mothers, along with me, decided to have youth camps for our children so that they stay in touch with Kashmir. And go ahead.
And do your children speak Kashmiri?
My daughter does, yes. My son understands it very well. My daughter speaks Kashmiri. And so that's how we started. And Funkar International came into being when we saw that there were no recordings of music that we could share with our children, and they would listen to it, because they were, they are open to everything. They listen to world music, but we didn't have anything to give to them that they could listen to. So that's how we formed Funkar International, with a few other mothers like me who had children. And then we decided we would do our own recordings. At that time, we were not mature enough to think that we could use that as promoting the language. So the journey went from just providing it for our children to making them understand that you can learn your language through music, and this is your music, these are your instruments. And it became a big hit. I would like to share the first CD that we did is Saz Da Awaz. It was done with Raj Begum, Naseem, Ghulam Hassan Sofi, and Bilal, Irfan Bilal, I think your generation must know. So Bilal was a little kid when he played on this. And then we went on to do wedding songs, and we called it Mazrat. So what we did was, now that we got a little more mature about what we were doing, we tried to incorporate visual art with music. So the cover of Mazrat is the Nikahnama of my parents. And the pictures in the booklet are from a wedding in 1935 in Rajpura of my uncle from 1935. So because now something was available, the Kashmiri diaspora could use this music for their weddings. So there was an element of, this is Kashmir, this is who we are, this is what we have, share it with the world, not trying to be somebody that, oh, yes, we're better than others. No, we have something, we want to share it with the world. So after that experience, the culture of Kashmir. So we decided to make them learn Kashmiri through music, because they were learning Arabic, they were learning Spanish, they were learning other, languages just through music, by listening to music. So that was inspirational, and we felt that would be great if they had songs, they would listen to it, and they would at least keep some part of it. And then as we moved on, we realized when our kids went to Kashmir, nobody spoke to them in Kashmiri. They all spoke in Urdu. And which kind of, bothered me a lot. It still bothers me, because then what is the language for? I mean, who are we? Who are we if we don't speak our own language? So we decided maybe we should do something different. So I decided we would bring Kashmir to Kashmiris from America, and we decided to do a music CD in Chicago with a group called, it's an intercultural music group called Lama Jamal. And we asked them, we gave them all the songs, the traditional songs of Kashmir, and they sang those songs and they played our instruments, and none of them was a Kashmiri. And we called it The Journey of Music, Saz of Safar. That was, I thought, if it comes from outside and people in Kashmir see that, oh, well, these are white guys singing Kashmiri, so there must be something valuable about this, the colonial mindset that we have. And, we did that. And after that, the mission was to showcase Kashmir, showcase a Kashmiri showcase in Kashmir. Because I personally felt that we were showcased by other people. We were like, it's a beautiful landscape, children have rosy cheeks, apple cheeks, this, that, and the other. Everyone forgot that these are people living with hundreds of years old culture. They have a voice, they have literature, and they have a heart. So we decided that we would revive our traditional musical instruments. I made a visit to Women's College and I asked them to show the instruments that they teach. What they told me was shocking. They said they don't teach any Kashmiri music or instruments, they just teach Indian classical music. Now, how, as a Kashmiri, can you connect with Indian classical music alone without knowing your own instruments? I'm not against learning other instruments or other music. Everything adds to your valuable experience. But how, in Kashmir, to Kashmiris, you are depriving them of their own culture that is just telling them you are nobody. So
Can I interrupt you here?
Sure.
Ma'am, as we know, you have been like in America. So how hard was it to teach them Tumak Nari, how to play it? Because like it's a Kashmiri instrument. So how did you overcome that and teach them how to play the Tumak Nari?
Well, that's the point I'm coming to, is that this is what we have been told. Tumbaknar is just, at the wedding thing, people play, it's a Kashmiri instrument. It got no value. If you realize, it was immediately replaced with a tabla in Doordarshan, in all these, And when I listen to Kashmiri songs, this is very important. When I listen to Kashmiri songs, it seemed like it was Bollywood music. It was the same kind of ting, 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 ting. There was no soul in it. There was no heart in it. And because there were no traditional instruments being played with Kashmiri music. You can sing a ghazal or you can sing some and make it Indian classical music, then it's not Kashmiri music. How is it distinct? We wanted to make it, distinct, because if you realize, even South India has its own music. North India has its own music. Kashmir has its own music. So there was no rabab, there was no tar, there was no tumbak. Tumbak actually is an internationally, internationally renowned instrument. It's an instrument that is played in most of the Middle East. So there are lessons being provided for tumbak lessons here in America. It has a place, and that was very rewarding for people who play tumbak, and they played so beautifully. It's unbelievable. So tumbak was not an issue. The rabab came. We did a rabab revival workshop with an Afghani American who I brought to Kashmir, and he taught a number of students how to play the rabab and the versatility of the rabab, because as a Kashmiri, what we had seen is rabab is played by folk musicians who just hold it and, they play it one way, but rabab is versatile. So now if you see all this revolution coming about the rabab, it wasn't in a vacuum. We had something to give credit to our Habib. Habib, everybody, the young people know Habib Wardak. He's the one who did the Rabab Revival workshop. We did Spanish music with Rabab Revival workshop with this Rabab. Everybody was picking up a guitar, which is not bad, but we also have something like a guitar that needed to be preserved. So that was for our preserving our instruments. Santoor, Rabab. Santoor, as you know, has been accepted very widely in India, and it has ceased to be a Kashmiri Santoor now. It's an Indian Santoor. So because of everything. So those were things in my mind. And then, of course, the Awrad al-Fatiha, we felt that we had a spiritual tradition that was so beautiful, and that had not been captured. So we captured the Awrad al-Fatiha. We brought our Ronnie Malley from the international intercultural group musicians to Kashmir. We made him go to all the shrines. We made him sit through the khatams. And then we asked him to do Khatm Sharif in Chicago with a Qadi called Ismail Qadi, and he's also a Palestinian. So I am very proud of this. And what we did was, with every CD, we incorporated visual artists of Kashmir. Every cover that is done by a Kashmiri artist, whether he's living in Kashmir or whether he's living here. And then we tried to get it to the world platform through Cook Studio. And we were able to do that as well. So these are the little contributions of ours towards music in Kashmir.
Thank you, ma'am. Zeshan, my next question would be for you. When anger is on streaks and immensely strong, do you feel art and poetry is a went out? Have you been able to take Zeshan?
असल में ये वो आखिरी चीज है जो हम कर सकते हैं. लाइक ये वो पहली चीज नहीं है की जाए, लेकिन जब आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, हाँ, फिर ये आखिरी चीज है. मेरी ये अभी कल ही मैं इस चीज पे बहुत गौर कर रहा था. मैंने एक नज्म लिखी जब श्रीनगर में चीजें बहुत खराब थी पिछले दिनों में. सो पूरे दिन मैं तड़प रहा था कि मैं कुछ कर सकूं, मैं बाहर जा सकूं, मैं भी कुछ कर सकूं, लेकिन मुझे पता था कि मैं हेल्पलेस हूं, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता. हाँ, फिर उस रात को मैंने पोएम लिखी. सो ये वो आखिरी चीज है जब आप जा रही है, ये क्या कर रही है, सर कट
आप दोहरा सकते हैं. हाँ,
वाकर खूह में लथपथ सर लाया हूं, सोने दो. मकतल से मैं चलते चलते घर आया हूं, सोने दो. तूफान देखा, आंसू देखे, जब से आंखें खोली है. इन आंखों में खून का दरिया भर लाया हूं, सोने दो. कल जब अपनी सूरत देखी, आईने ने देखा है. कल मैं कितना खुद से खुद ही शर्माया हूं, सोने दो. पूरा दिन पानी को तरसा, सूरज ने सब चीरा था. खिलने वाला था गुलशन में, मुरझाया हूं, सोने दो. जब वो मर जाएंगे ज़ीशा, हमको क्या गम है. अपनी बख्शिश खाके करबल सब लाया हूँ, सोने दो.
बहुत खूब.
तो हाँ.
Nabia, you have Muslims of India through CA and NRC. Do you subscribe to this opinion?
Yes, obviously I would subscribe to that idea, because that's what we have been protesting against. First people, मतलब लोगों की ये बहस होती थी कि मुसलमान जो हैं हिंदुस्तान के वो पहले दर्जे के शहरी हैं कि नहीं है, but now the debate is कि वो शहरी हैं कि नहीं है, मतलब it's snatching our statehood, and we have been living in this country as an Indian Muslim. It's our home, and how can a government come and they would ask our as the proofs of our citizenship. So yeah, and also it's not just about protesting against particularly against the CA and NRC. It is also about protesting against the hatred which led to these types of bills, which led to these types of laws. The hatred, the Islamophobia, which we never addressed, which no one ever addressed. These bills are the product of that Islamophobia. So we are fighting against Islamophobia, which has been there, I don't know since when. So yeah.
When did it come to your mind that these atrocities, we can't take it anymore? Let me up and do something.
No one is born as an activist. So I'm basically a history student. So when I was in graduation third year, that is in, I think that was in 2015. So yeah, I mean it just came onto me through studying. Through I was very much interested in Marxism, and I used to read a lot. But then being in Jamia, the political exposure was enough. So atrocities were not there. But after 2014, I say that the hatred towards Muslim was normalized before 2014, and now it is legalized. When I was in master's first year, but I didn't write poetry. I used to write articles here and there, but I started writing poetry just a year ago. No one believes that, but I used to write something or the other, but then I never used to publish it anywhere. So yeah, when I published my first poetry, it's just that my friends hyped me, and so yeah, that's how I started writing and putting up my work on YouTube and Instagram and different things. Is my protest against the tyranny of my times. So yeah, that is how I protest against this government. And I just don't want to limit my identity as a poet. I am also an activist. I am also a Muslim woman who speaks the truth.
That's amazing. Mrs. Ashai, recently in US, we saw the death of George Floyd. Black Lives Movement saw a lot of people from art industries, singing industries, and many other sects coming forward and showing their support. Do you feel role of art in culture has increased the resistance movement? Would you like to tell our audience in Kashmir about Black Lives
Well,
Movement?
Anyone who knows American history knows that blacks it's a systemic problem in America. What happened with Floyd has happened so many times, but it just didn't get the fervor that it has now. Because times have changed, the world has changed. There are young people coming who are activists who don't like to see something like this. And that's why it took on the shape that it did. And the leadership that we have right now is so polarizing that it's unbelievable. And it has kind of come back to haunt him. Because when you start anything with hatred, it is going to come back and bite you. African Americans have been discriminated against throughout. It's a part of history. And there is a systemic, discrimination against blacks in America. Everybody else from around the world comes here and makes it, and it's the American dream. But for them, whether it's schooling, it's housing, it's everything, it's built into the system. And things are changing. Things will change because it doesn't work. It cannot work like this.
Nabia, I'll come again to you. You said there's a lot of intimidation, and at the same time, you say you stick to your idea. What keeps this hope alive?
Actually, I think I'm just inspired by a lot of people. There's a lot of intimidation, yes, that's true. But then it's the cause, the people who inspire me, and my friends, you know, uh, that keeps me driving. I get intimidated too. I get scared too. You know, I don't want to end up in jail. Um, yeah, I think it's the cause and the people that keeps me driving.
Okay. Zishan, your poetry has a metaphorical reference to various issues in Kashmir. How has the environment influenced you, Edward? And what exactly prompts you or triggers you to exactly write what you write?
या सो मैं से कहता हूँ, मैं एक दिन अपने एक उस्ताद के साथ बैठा हुआ था, तो उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि शेर ऐसे बनता है। एक बंदा डल के किनारे चल रहा था, तो उसने एक बंदे को डूबते हुए देखा। उसने देखा और वो आगे चला। उसने आगे एक घर जलते हुए देखा। तो शाम को जब वो घर आया, उसने कहा आग का दरिया है और डूब के जाना है। सो वो जो कुछ देख रहा था, वो उसके थॉट में मेटाफर की तरह या सिमिली में या अलग डिवाइसेस से यूज हो गया। सो जैसे अगर आप मेरी गजलों को ऐसे देख लें, तो आपको पता चलेगा कि इनमें वही सूफी रूट्स हैं जो कश्मीर में हैं, जिनके बारे में पहले भी एक बात कर रहे थे। तो लेकिन हाँ, मेटाफर्स चेंज हो गए। लाइक पहले फूलों की बात होती थी, खुशबू की बात होती थी, या इस तरह की चीजें, क्योंकि वही कुछ देखने को मिलता था। तो बस अब मेटाफर्स बदल गए हैं। अब वही कुछ बोलने के लिए तुम चांद की जगह पे एक लाश को रख रहे हो, तुम फूलों की जगह खून को रख रहे हो, क्योंकि तुम यही कुछ देख रहे हो और वैसा ही शेर बन रहा है।
Malam, what were the external forces that prompted you to write this? What was it exactly that happened and you thought like now I have to write it?
लुक बेसिकली मैंने जैसा पहले भी कहा कि शायरी ऐसे तो मैंने बहुत पहले शुरू की। मैं छोटा सा था जब मैं शेर लिखता था, और यही तसव्वुफ से बहुत इंटरेस्टेड था मैं। सूफी वो सारी चीज़ें, वो आइडियाज़ मुझे बहुत खींचते थे अपनी तरफ। लेकिन हाँ, जब मैं बड़ा होता गया और फिर मेरी वो इंडिविजुअलिटी, मेरी इनफरादियत जब मेरे कलाम में आने लगी, उस टाइम पे कश्मीर के हालात ही कुछ ऐसे थे। मैं उस टाइम पे रैनाबारी में रहता था, तो अब मैं लाल बाजार में हूँ। रैनाबारी में मेरे घर के बिल्कुल पीछे तुफैल रहते थे। तुफैल जो 2010 में शहीद हुए, तो वो मेरे घर के पीछे रहते थे। मुझे याद है जब हम स्कूल बस के लिए जाते थे, तो वो बॉटल टांग के हम बस वहाँ स्टॉप पे खड़े होते थे। सो वह सारी चीजें, जब उसकी डेड बॉडी, मतलब हम उतने बहुत बड़े नहीं थे लाइक ये सब कुछ देखने के लिए। सो ऑब्वियसली उसने हमारे अंदर एक जगह बनाई जो शायद अब नहीं निकल सकती।
Bilkul. So it was something personal that got you into the fix, not external.
एग्जैक्टली हाँ, क्योंकि मैं पहले मैं बहुत अपने तक था। लाइक मैं अंदर की दुनिया ज्यादा पसंद करता था। मैं बाहर, मैं अपनी इमेजिनरी इसमें रहता था। सो मेरी शायरी भी अराउंड वही होती थी। तो शायद इसलिए मुझे वो अंदर हिट हुआ, फिर वो बाद में बाहर आता गया।
Okay. Mrs. Ashai, as you already told us that you released an audio of Aurad Fateh in America, composition of Quranic verses by 13th century Sufi saint Shah Hamdan. What was the idea behind launching Aurad Fateh in America? Actually, you know, when I told my parents yesterday that it's a Aurad Fateh released by a Kashmiri, but now she's in America, and I made them listen to, actually not listen to, I just told them about it, and they were like so happy that who is not in Kashmir is keeping the touch with their roots. They were so overwhelmed by this.
Well, because I have I always feel that we have to showcase Kashmir, and Kashmiris have to showcase Kashmir. Whether it is our spiritual traditions, this is a very rich spiritual tradition of Kashmir. I don't think there is any Kashmiri who hasn't at least heard our Radifat. They have loudspeakers all the time, and it was a part of my childhood as well. And I felt that this was a very rich tradition which I wanted to pass on to the next generation of the diaspora. And also in Kashmir, I have nieces and nephews in Kashmir who tell me that throughout Ramzan, they turn the CD on and they listen to it, which gives me hope that we still have another generation that will listen to our Fatiha.
Okay, ma'am. Nabia, you know, we approach a lot of poets and artists across India apart from you. There was this massive stigma that people don't want to be associated that's something Kashmiri. Such a worrisome discourse has been manufactured that humanity and the Muslim in India. Is there anything you would add to it?
Muslims Indian Muslims have never understood of Kashmiris, but I think they have enough reasons to understand that, and there are people understand it. Yeah, I would just suggest that I would just say that it's the shared trauma that bring people together, and I hope that Indian Muslims would understand what happens in Kashmir as soon as possible.
Zeshan, how do you see poetry in Kashmir about young people? How they do it? Like, as you know, you have been associated with poetry since a very long time. Now, there are some young budding artists who also want to try in it. How do you see them?
So हाँ, क्योंकि पेन जो होती है ना, इसका एक वेंट हमेशा होता है. लाइक कश्मीर में अभी ऐसी सिचुएशन हो गई है, आपने बहुत सारे खाली पोइट्री नहीं, बहुत आर्ट्स, बहुत मैं बहुत हैरान हो जाता हूँ. अभी हमने एक ऑनलाइन मुशायरा होस्ट किया था लाइक 1 महीना पहले, और छोटे छोटे बच्चे लाइक 12th से 10th से, और इतनी सही पोइट्री कर रहे हैं और इतनी गहरी पोइट्री कर रहे हैं कि मुझे नहीं लगता कि मैंने पूरे इंडिया में बड़े बड़े शायरों से, जैसे मैं एक शेर कहता हूँ, एक साउथ कश्मीर से एक शायर है, उसने लिखा था कि मैं सबसे पहले बनाऊंगा खून की पेंटिंग, फिर उसका नाम रखूंगा सुकून की पेंटिंग. सो ये लड़का रूमी 10 साल नहीं 12th में पढ़ता है. आई मीन बहुत छोटा लड़का है. और जब ये शेर,
Can I interrupt you all here?
Yeah.
Because I guess it's Adhan time. Like, let's just
Yeah, all
give
right.
a pause. Okay.
All right.
We'll resume back.
Yeah,
Zeshan?
so I was talking about these young kids writing poetry और बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. और हाँ, ये पॉइंट इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि इससे पहले की जनरेशन जो शायरी लिखती थी, आई मीन हमसे जो बड़े शायरी लिख रहे थे, वो बिल्कुल अलग हैं यंग जनरेशन से जो 90s बॉर्न है, आई मीन 90s और उसके बाद जो पैदा हुए हैं. आप उनकी पोइट्री में बहुत गहराई देखेंगे, लेकिन हाँ, उनको रिकग्नाइज नहीं किया जाता है क्योंकि स्टेट की मशीनरी अलग होती है, और क्योंकि वो मेन स्ट्रीम नहीं है और उनको रिकग्नाइज नहीं किया जा रहा है, तो वो एक प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. उससे मुझे लगता है शायद एक नया इंस्टीट्यूशन पैरेलली खुद ही पैदा हो रहा है पोइट्री की दुनिया में, जो मुझे लगता है कि इस एरा की, इस टाइम की एक रिप्रेजेंटेशन होगी लिटरेचर में बाद में, क्योंकि बहुत अच्छा काम हो रहा है.
Okay. Now we are left with very less time. So Asmat ma'am, I'll come back to you, Mrs. Asmat Shai. Okay. So I just want to ask you, do you miss Kashmir, and what do you miss the most? Here, what will be your final comments over everything?
Yeah, well, I would like to think that we made a little bit of a difference, and then that we started people to think about who they are and how they need to be seen.
Then can you please recite your poem?
Yeah, I would love to. So there was this poetry which I wrote at the time of anti-CA movement. It is called Aega Inqilab, Pehan ki bindi churiyan burqa hijab. So basically, through this poem, I want to challenge the code of dominance, rescue, and resistance. Through when I say that Aega Inqilab, Pehan ki bindi churiyan burqa hijab, I want to reclaim bangles as a symbol of strength, which in masculinist logic suggests that bangles is a symbol of weakness. And similarly, in my poem, the hijab and bindi as a female reclamation of the revolution. साहिल की खामोशी को चीरता हुआ लेके एहतजाज का एक सैलाब, साहिल की खामोशी को चीरता हुआ लेके एहतजाज का एक सैलाब, आएगा इनकलाब पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब। कभी गौरी की आवाज बनके, कभी गौरी की आवाज बनके, कभी सावित्री के सपनों का आगाज बनके, कभी फातिमा की ढाल बनके, कभी अम्मी का लाल बनके, लेके अपने सीने में जज्बात ये बेबाक, आएगा इनकलाब पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब। कभी शाहीन बाग की शाम बनके, कभी जामिया की दास्तान बनके, कभी अलीगढ़ की आवाम बनके, कभी फैज की नज़्मों का उन्वान बनके, लेने तुम्हारे जुल्मों सितम का हर एक हिसाब, आएगा इनकलाब पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब। पत्थर दिल शहर में रुखसारे यार बनके, पत्थर दिल शहर में रुखसारे यार बनके, जर्द पत्ते खिल जाएंगे आतिशे चिनार बनके, करेगा बगावत अपने हक का हकदार बनके, बदलेगा जमाना वक्त की रफ्तार बनके, कभी दफली का बनेगा राग, कभी इश्क तो कभी गुलाब, आएगा इनकलाब पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब। ये लास्ट लाइन है कि तुम ढाओ जमाने पे तलखियां, तुम ढाओ जमाने पे तलखियां, सावरकर का पैगाम बनके वो फूल बिछाता चलेगा अम्बेडकर का संविधान बनके, अपनी जिल्लत का हिसाब लेगा एक शाहीन इंसान बनके, हो जाओगे तुम खाक हिटलर का अंजाम बनके, उठाएगा तुम्हारी झूठी खुदी का निकाब, ढाएगा तुम पे अदल और सितम का हिसाब, आएगा इनकलाब पहन के बिंदी चूड़ियां बुर्का हिजाब। That's all.
Amazing. It's really
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
So, any last comments you want to leave?
No, I would just like to thank you that you have invited me here and I could meet lovely people like Asmat ma'am, Zeshan and Kazi. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, Zeshan, as you know, you have been associated as the poet of resistance. So, anything at the end of the show you would like to say?
हाँ, एक पोएम, एक आजाद नज्म
Yeah,
है।
sure, please.
तो शायद मैं अपनी बातों को बोलकर ज्यादा अच्छी तरह नहीं बोल सकता, शायद मैं नज्मों से अपनी बात को ज्यादा बेहतर तरह से बोल सकता हूँ। तो यह कि वतन की तुंद हवाओं पे शोरो गुल दिल का, चला उदास रुतों के तवाफ करने को, जगह जगह पे तमन्नाओं का लहू देखा, जगह जगह पे दिले इश्क बेकरार मिला, हर एक जर्रा किसी गम में सोगवार मिला, जाने किस खूब रो के मातम में अपने सीने को पीटती नदियां, पर्वतों के जिगर को चाक किए किसी फरहाद का पयाम लिए, बह रही थी किसी के आंगन से, और किनारे पे कोई दीवाना, अदाओ नाज बराबर थे शायरों वाले, ये खौफनाक हवाओं में टस से मस न हुआ, नमाज शोक सरेदार कर रहा था अदा, करबला का मुरीद था शायद। तो ये नज्म असल में मैंने, हाँ वही जिन दिनों पूरा ब्लॉकेड था उस टाइम पे मैंने काफ़ी कुछ लिखा था और उसमें से ये एक है। सो शायद इस यहीं पे मैं ख़त्म करना चाहूँगा। आई मीन ये मेरी रिप्रेजेंटेशन रहेगी।
I thank every one of you
बहुत
for
शुक्रिया।
joining us here today on this platform. Like, it was such an overwhelming response to talk every one of you, know your journeys and know everything about you. I thank every one of you, Mrs. Asmat Ashai, Navia Khan and Zeshan Jairpoon. Thank you so much.
शुक्रिया।
Thank you. We expect your continuous support you have been providing us. We will meet you again on Kashmiriyat for next episode of Straightforward. This is Aniqa signing off from the Kashmiriyat. Assalamu alaikum.